Welcome to Ulua. You live, you work, you art.
Hello, guys, again. This is Caro from Ulua, and I've been thinking about these concepts Ikigai, which is not a guy, it's a Japanese word. Sorry, I had to do the stupid joke. It's a Japanese word for that. We will be talking right now about it. It's mostly confused with happiness and purpose and many other concepts that had nothing to do with it, and I will be talking about that. And also Wu Wei, which is generally translated as flow, but it's actually non-action. So yeah, and also about the purpose of the things we do. And I've been thinking a lot about it because I think I mentioned before that I've been working for some time, for several years, as a consultant and as an agile coach. And so I've been working with teams and that kind of thing. And it's very popular between agile methodologies and that kind of stuff to talk about Ikigai and being happy as a team, being happy at work, being happy in the business, and also producing results. And sometimes it's not that popular, but people talk about flow, about the state of flow where you are super concentrated and super into the thing you're doing. So it's this flow, and we all take concepts from the Far East that we aren't really familiar with. And just for a minute, I will abstract a little bit, and I will get a little farther from these business concepts or these things that are starting to be talked in this part of the world, in the Western world, and which are actually ancient in Asia. And I've talked some things about that in the past. I've said, for example, I don't remember the some practices, yes, from Advaita Vedanta, like active inquiry and active listening, that kind of thing, are taken from Far East Asia, and we just little and very, very tiny things from a whole world that is completely different from us, as we talked in the other episode, that we have different mindsets because it's the way that we've been wired as people living in different worlds. It's almost like living in another planet, but yeah, you get the idea of what I'm saying. So, for example, it happens a lot in dance, because I've been dancing, and I've been dancing traditional dances from the East, from the Far East, mostly, yes, traditional and gypsy dances. And it's super well known in the West. If you are into this world, if you are really deep into this world of dance, of the traditional dances and everything, if you just take a class, you think that's, yeah, I'm taking a class and I'm doing this dance and that's it. But if you are really deep into the culture and trying to understand the way that the people that do the dances think and the way they live, and every information, that the most information you can have from there, the better to understand at a very tiny little piece, I think, because we will never be able to completely understand about the mindset. But I think it's necessary to reflect on the dancing, not just if you want to just dance, it's okay, but I guess if you really are into the core of the dance and why they do it and how to do it, it helps you understand better how to do your movements. So if you know the history and everything, it's better for you as a performer, as a dancer, as a musician, if you are playing music from those kind of the world, and so on. And I've seen a lot that, for example, from dances from India that have, we just take, I don't know, one step, or maybe when I know some cases here in Argentina where people didn't have the opportunity to go and actually study with masters or with dancers in their places. They just watch some videos and started dancing. There's nothing wrong intrinsically about that. But if you don't know the background and all the things, you can't, it's my perspective, you can't really bring it to the table that, or to the dance floor. And I've known so many concepts and things that are taken so lightly, and they say, "Oh, yes, I know about that dance they're doing in the middle of nowhere, and I will take it for me, and I will try to reproduce it without any context." So maybe, for example, in the culture that you are trying to represent, they, I don't know, for example, it comes to mind right now that when I was in Malaysia, you can't, it's forbidden to use to wear yellow color in your clothes. So maybe if you are dancing something that where the color, that specific color that you are trying to use is forbidden, it's really not a match with the real culture. And I'm not talking at all about appropriation and that kind of thing. No, I'm just talking about the representation that you're doing is actually not the correct one. And I've seen people say, okay, this is how they do, and so it's misrepresented and it's modified during the time, and at the end it's completely another thing from the original one. And it's not that that specifically is bad, because you can call it, this is a fantasy based on what they do in X place. But if you want to really represent the traditional dance, the folk dance, and that kind of thing, you should be a little bit more careful. At least, again, that's my perspective. So I've seen it a lot of times. I've also seen it in the spiritual world, but that's for another day. I've seen so many words that are just little words in a huge country, and you're taking just that little piece and trying to insert into our Western culture. So yeah, this is what I'm going to talk about today. But before we continue, a mate. Okay, yes, I was looking for this book. Finally got it. Was right behind me, and apparently there's only this is one idea. I was actually was kind of not disappointed, because that's not the right word, but I think it's nice to know. This is called Pensar a la Japonesa, which is I think it's only in Spanish, from Le Le Shen Mai. I don't know how it's pronounced. And it has some like words, for example, wabi sabi, and some Japanese concepts, which are nice to know. I'm not saying it's not nice to know them, but at the same time, when we hear these things and we take it out to our current world, we tend to modify completely its meaning. And I'm not saying don't ever wear them, don't ever use these words, but always be careful how you use them, especially because this modification starts and it's never ending. And that is why, for example, I'm going to talk about Ikigai right now. And Ikigai has been so, the term in Spanish is manoseado. It's like it's been completely manipulated and changed and distorted. So what Ikigai means is the reason for being. And I'm citing here, and I will leave some things so you can see. I'm citing here, it's the main author of the book, which the first time we heard Ikigai was because Dr. Ken Mogi, I think he's a neuroscientist or something. He wrote a book which in UK is called The Little Book of Ikigai, And in the US, I think it has another name because they didn't like the word little to be on the title, as I recall from an interview they made with him several years ago. And he explains at this interview, again, I've been thinking about this for a long time, and at this interview, I remember he talked about that Ikigai is everywhere. And we just took this term into our Western culture and we said, okay, we will use it for happiness. And in some cases, I've been heard of it as happiness. It's like equal to happiness, equal to purpose also. And it has nothing to do with it. We could relate it somehow because, again, as we said in the episode before, if we talk about the East, everything is mixed and intertwined because we're just whole beings. And Ikigai per se talks about the reason for being. So it's everywhere. Everything you do should be part of what you really want to do. That could be the translation I try to make in my mind, as similar to what Dr. Ken was saying. And I think this is really important because, for example, there's been around for several years too a Venn diagram, which I will leave here, I don't know where, so you can see. And this has been thought of and talked about for many years. Like they say, this is Ikigai. This is the diagram of Ikigai. And I will also leave you the link from Dr. Ken Muggy explaining why that is not exactly the diagram he was trying, or the idea he was trying to convey, but at the same time, this diagram is useful, yes, because our reason for being is everything that's in that diagram, right? In that Venn diagram. It's not just what's in the middle, but everything that's around. So we should, he says in this interview and in several places I've heard from him, he said, just doing my coffee in the morning is my Ikigai. As also could be my Ikigai, I don't know, writing a book could be also my Ikigai. So it's everywhere. It's so many things. It's not just a little thing that you do because you love, because it's your goal. No, it's everything you do. And this diagram Ben was taken from Andres Susunaga, who is a coach in Spain, and I think he's also an astrologer or something, and he made this diagram, but he didn't relate it at first with Ikigai. He was doing his coaching and his things with this diagram, and he did this because he thought that then this super known question that coaches ask about, which is, what do you do if you had all the money in the world, or if you weren't afraid, or if you had everything or every resource or thing you need right now? So he figured out this diagram could help his coaches or the people who he worked with understand better their purpose, right? So I think that's when purpose and Ikigai were confused and mixed up, and everything started from that. Sorry, mate. And I heard that so that we could say it's a framework that is called the diagram of Ikigai, which is not a diagram of Ikigai. And this was taken by, there was another guy in the US, I can't remember honestly right now, but he made some tweaks to this diagram and he made a completely different framework, which is not that different, but he related it in a different way and he gave it a new perspective. And so this Ikigai, which is not again Ikigai, has been transformed into other things, and it has been completely derailed from the main or the origin of the Ikigai thing. And why should I care? You could say right now. Well, don't care about it. It's just another word that's being used incorrectly. But I do think it's important again to go back to the basis and really understand them. Maybe it's because I made that mistake too in the past. Yeah, maybe that is why I'm so cautious right now about talking about other things that I don't know about, or I try to learn a little bit more first. And I'm surely will make mistakes too. But yeah, I think it's important when we realize that we made a mistake, or maybe this is not the right thing, that we can go back to the basis. So again, I will leave the link about this. This is short where Dr. Ken Muggy explains this in his channel, the real diagram of Ikigai, which is 5 pillars that he understood once he had written the book. He then reflected, which is also part of Ikigai, reflecting and thinking and understanding why you're doing the things that you're doing. And so he find out that there are 5 things that he calls like the pillars of Ikigai, which are, I have them right here because otherwise I wouldn't remember them all, which is starting small, releasing yourself, harmony and sustainability, the joy of little things, and being in the here and now. So those are the 5 things he mentions as the pillars of Ikigai. And again, those are the whole diagram, not just the middle. It's everything you do has to have a reason for doing it, a reason for being, and it has to do with small things, the big things, the public things, and the private things. So it's everywhere. So again, Ikigai is not happiness, it's not specifically happiness. Happiness is also included in this diagram. It's also part of you, but it's also sadness, and also could be, I don't know, anger, and every emotion and everything basically that we have in life, that is Ikigai, because we are present right here, right now, as it's one of the pillars, right? So if you are angry, that's one of the pillars. If you are angry right now, that's being in the here and now. And also, you can see, for example, from the 3rd pillar, which is harmony and sustainability, it also has to do with this Asian mindset, I will call it, like everyone should be in harmony, everyone should be present in the moment and themselves as part of their surroundings. Internal or external are a whole thing, and you're also part of nature, for example. And thinking about that, even though Ikigai has to do more with the sense of doing things, everything you do, trying to make it the best way possible, but also live it. If you're angry, just be anger in anger and live it in the moment. It also reminded me of another concept which has been talked in the Western as flow. We generally call it flow, but it's rooted on Wu Wei concept, which is Japanese. Sorry, it's Chinese. It's from another country. Wu Wei is this concept of non-action, which there's also a misconception there, because we say non-action is just doing nothing, and no, it's not like that. It's not doing nothing. It's just doing things, but not trying to force things into the results. Do things because you want to do them in the moment, because you find that's the thing that you want to do, but don't expect too much things as a result. And that's the difference that we generally have in the conception of Wu Wei. For example, I haven't read it, but I saw in Bali, in many places, people wrote, or there were books even that they say this, and science and everything, saying Bali is the place for doing nothing, but the art of doing nothing. But again, I think it's misconception of this way. It's non-action, but in an active way. It's kind of apparently it's like it's contradicting itself, but it's not actually. I don't know. It's kind of complex when we have a different mindset, and we as Westerners tend to go binary. It is or it isn't. And I was thinking about, I made last episode, go check it out, about West and East, that yeah, I said many things that seemed contradictory between it themselves, and you say, why is that? But we as humans are contradictory people. We can talk in another episode. Sorry, I close the parenthesis here. And yeah, so Wu Wei is non-action, but in an active way. It doesn't mean that you have to sit and wait for things to happen. No, you have to do things and try to go. Here's where the flow enters. Go with the flow, do the things you can. It's not inherently bad to have a purpose, but if you don't have a purpose, it's also okay. So you just do things that you want, that you like, and that you think are needed or whatever, but don't force the result, and don't try to be super effective, which is something we have really mastered. Mastering is also another word that maybe we take it like differently, like in the East. And it's about being spontaneous. It's about naturally doing things. So it's somehow related to Ikigai, but not completely. Remember, two different, even if it's in Asia, two different countries, two different religions also. Or maybe more religions that use these words. So the concepts tend to vary. And I wouldn't say I like it more, but I feel more familiarity with the Wu Wei concept, and not that much with the Japanese Ikigai, because I've been reading and trying to understand a little bit more about Taoism. Also, I don't like the isms and the religion part, but I do think it's interesting trying to understand these mindsets. And in Taoism, Wu Wei is about non-acting, because what it says, and actually, I've been raised as Christian, I could say, and we are taught that in the Bible, or from the Judeo-Christian tradition, I've been I've grown I've been yes, I've grown with that thing in mind, because it's the culture here. And in the Bible, it also says that birds, it seems something similar in the Tao Te Ching, and also in the Bible, that birds are fed. Actually, in the Bible, it says that God feeds the birds that are in the fields. But in the Tao Te Ching, it says that birds are just fed by nature, and everything is taken care of, and they don't have to work, or they don't have to do some things with too much effort to get things in return or to produce some result. So nature is taking care of itself. That's the idea of Wu Wei. So again, it doesn't mean that birds should not sing until they have food. I don't know, that kind of thing. They will do the thing, and that's it. And so as humans, we should do our thing too. We should do the things that we want to do. So why am I talking about Wu Wei? Again, because it's about, we know this mostly as flow in the West, and it has some components of flow. It's, yes, going with the flow. Yes, we could say that, but it's not to be taken that literally as we generally do in the West. And it's because of our ignorance and because we don't have time to read a book or maybe to analyze a little more or focus on these kind of things. So maybe you don't even care, and that's okay. But if you do care about words and if you are a little more curious about the things and the origin of things, it's really interesting to know about it, at least from my perspective. That is why I'm talking about this. So again, Ikigai, we said, is the reason for being. It shouldn't be confused with Wu Wei, which is non-action but active at the same time. And none of them had to do with purpose. So purpose is a completely other thing. And it has to do, and again, having a purpose could be, when you have an Ikigai, you could have at the same time a purpose, but it's not the same thing. And with Wu Wei, you could have a purpose too, but it's not the same thing. And so purpose is another thing, another completely different thing. And purpose, we generally talk about purpose and having goals and having the things where we aspire to, or the things we aspire to do in the future, or the things we want to become. It's always based in the future. And if you remember, both Wu Wei and Ikigai are based on the here and now. So we could be doing things here and now for this purpose in the future, but we are not that attached to that future, to that purpose that we have in the future. So, and I know we tend to think about this in a different way. Then why I'm doing this that I'm doing if I don't have a purpose? And the conception is totally different in this mindset that we talk about in the East versus the West. We in the West, I had this, personally, I had this struggle for a long time until I talked to a wise person that I know. Remember that I always talk about the wise persons I have in my life. And I said, I don't have a purpose. It came to a time in my life that I was so stressed, and I realized, what's my purpose? I don't have a purpose. I don't know what to do next. And also one of my mentors told me this, which is, you don't need a purpose. You just need to continue your life, and maybe in the future you will find a purpose, or maybe you will never find it, but do the best you can right now. And that was really scary at first, because I said, no, but I have to have a purpose. This thing that I'm doing has to mean something. And I think it's, I don't know, that is why I've been thinking about it for so long. And I now realize that maybe the purpose will come or not. We never know. By doing things I just want to do. And I actually felt that happened to me, and I know it will happen again because I was doing a completely different thing at the time when I was living in Asia. So many different things happen, and I realized, okay, this is the way I want to go now. And when I came back to Argentina, I did that kind of thing. And after some time, and also with the pandemics, everyone was um, trying to find themselves somehow. I don't know if all, but many people that I know. And we had our struggles and that kind of thing. And with each crisis, it happens that we sometimes have this kind of, well, okay, what do I do now? What's my purpose? And again, you don't have to have a purpose to do the things you want. So, yeah, maybe I'm turning like, I don't know. I don't think I will ever have a nation mentality, but I don't think I will have a completely Western mentality right now because after understanding about the things or trying to understand, I don't know if I fully understand them. It has changed somehow my way of thinking and living also. So again, just to sum it up. So you have on one side Ikigai, you have Wu Wei, and you have purpose, which is I'd say more like a Western thing. If you talk to some people that I have been for so many years into the East mindset, they would say this, that you don't need a purpose just for being right here right now. And so I also think that is why Ikigai has been in these three concepts, Ikigai, Wu Wei, and purpose, or flow and Wu Wei, have been misinterpreted as happiness, because in the West we want to be happy. We want to be happy all the time, but we don't even, well, I don't know. I don't even know what happiness means. I won't include everyone in my bag. So we could talk about happiness in another time, but again, I don't think they're equal. I think they're all complementary, and this is my strong opinion after being in the West. Please, in the East, please don't take words out of context, because we're using them wrong, basically. So that's the thing I wanted to say. And I hope you find this interesting. I know many of you are viewers from Asia, so maybe you say, what is she talking about? You shouldn't even talk about the things because it's really not important. But in the West, I think it is. And thank you so much for being here. And just comment if you want to say something about the things that I'm saying, or if you find this is interesting, like it or dislike it, whatever you want to do, subscribe, and see you in the next episode. Bye bye.
Stay tuned for Ulua's next episode.